Okay, we are setting up here live on YouTube and we're ready. We are on at the Jesus Gospel TV account. Just go there at youtube.com at the Jesus Gospel TV. And we have, I think it's an interesting teaching today. And it's not only interesting, it's a little bit difficult. Let's put it that way. I wanted to talk about the Epstein files. And I wanted to be specific because, well, it's kind of disgusting. And these type of things should not be allowed to continue within this country. And there's been a lot of posts on Facebook and Twitter and other places basically saying people are really upset, they're really mad, and the media is pushing the Super Bowl, and the media is pushing Bad Bunny, and the media is pushing the Grammys, and it's just like we'll completely flood them and they'll forget about this. But this is child sacrifice, child rape, eating of children, and many thousands and many other abuses. So tonight, I just want to talk briefly about what's going on with Jeffrey Epstein files. And please go to Twitter. It's the most reliable source for this. Go to Twitter and you can search for the Epstein files. There's a lot of information there. Right now, there are hundreds of thousands of pages of information and people are trying to organize it. So it's still being organized. So you have to pick and choose. But I wanted to share some things from you, and then we're going to talk about the Bible and what it means from a biblical point of view. So I'm Gary Sgrano from the Underdog Report, underdogreport.com, and my book, The Jesus Gospel, jesusgospel.com. First time in history, all four books of the Bible have been combined word for word, only using the words from the Bible. Get it at jesusgospel.com. So I want to share with you what's going on in the world. And we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And I just want to show you a couple of posts on Twitter. And I'm not going to go into any graphic stuff, but there is graphic stuff. You have to be prepared if you're going to dive in to see some really horrible stuff. I haven't done it that much because it's been pretty disgusting. But here you see a post that says very simply, 3 million pages. Okay, there's cannibalism, there's rape, there's murder, pedophilia, and of course, not a single arrest. So the people in the elite, the people in government are just trying to say, look the other way. Don't worry about it. There's nothing happening going on here. And that's kind of disgusting in terms of this type of behavior being acceptable. It's not acceptable. I want to play this little clip right here, again from Twitter. And before I do that, I've got to set up the voice capability. There you go.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me. This is me.
When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
And it's time for this to stop. It's time for the American people. It's time for the American people in the churches. It's time for the churches to wake up because it's your children that are being stolen. Oh, you can't just say, we're going to get some people upset because we may have some pedophiles in our pews. We don't want to get the pedophiles upset, so we're not going to talk about Jeffrey Epstein. Listen, This is serious stuff. I'm mad as hell at what's going on in this country. We were founded as a Christian country with Christian principles, and now people are sacrificing our children to devils, to Molochs. So that's what I want to talk about. Okay, now I want to switch and I want to talk that this is nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun, so to speak. I want to point out that there is basically archaeological findings in relationship to child sacrifice in the Old Testament ties with the Jews, including the Jews and not the Jews. There are sites in Medigo in Gaza and Near East, and they find skeletons placed under foundations of gate areas. Now, what they would do is they would bury these children alive as a sacrifice to a devil spirit, a god, a foreign god like Moloch, and they would put these children in the foundations as a way of saying, well, we're paying homage to this god to protect us. Disgusting. There were teenage girls found beneath the structure. Many scholars read these as what they call foundational sacrifices, and to consecrate the building, to dedicate it for protection. And we also have evidence in the Valley of Hinnom, the Jewish area. The biblical Tophet is described as a place where children were burned, and archaeologists have found uncovered concentrations of charred bones and buried contexts, and this is in the Bible. There's nothing new under the sun, so they say. It is in the Bible. So today, I'm going to have a brief, I want to have a brief study about what's going on in the Bible, specifically to what Jeffrey Epstein has been doing, which is disgusting. I personally saw a video of him, had a young girl that was tied down on the ground in the sun, and he was burnt. He had a magnifying glass, and he was burning her in different parts of her body and laughing at the same time. And there were people in the background laughing also. So this kind of stuff is serious. We cannot allow it to continue. So please get to your public officials. I don't know what Pam Bondi's doing. I have no clue. She seems to be busy on silly things like getting in front of the camera. I don't know what Kash Patel is doing. I don't know what's really going on. The most horrific, horrible things are being ignored. And it's time for these things not to be ignored. People, we have to push forward. Believe me, in the next few days, there's going to be some manufactured news things that's going to be in all of the news sites trying to get rid of people, get Epstein out of your mind. Don't be fooled. Okay. These are all orchestrated by the mainstream media, by the legacy media. It's all orchestrated to get your mind off of these horrors. But we can't. We have to. So let's look at the Bible. Okay. Just what happens. And I know that sometimes I've got to make these bigger, so we'll do that now. So we're in 2 Kings 28. Then he asked her, what is the matter? And she answers, the woman said to me, give me your son so we may eat him today, and tomorrow we will eat my son. So we cooked my son and ate him. The next day I said to her, give me your son so we may eat. But she had hidden him. So this is when they were under siege, and the Jewish king rent his clothes on the wall because he was so upset that this type of thing would happen, that people were eating their children. But they are eating, Jeffrey Epstein was eating children. Eating children. Here we see Ezekiel 5:10. Let me make this bigger. Therefore, when you miss, parents will eat their children. We see that. Even the parents will do that. And the children will eat their parents. I will inflict punishment on you and scatter you, all your survivors, to the winds. This is what God has predicted. And we have to understand the God of this world in 2 Corinthians 2:4 is Satan. He is evil. And these are the things he wants to happen. This is a spiritual war we are under, and we cannot fight it without a spiritual battle, without the Bible, without Jesus Christ, without the church of God. And the church has got to wake up, because this is a battle for your very existence of this country. Let's look at Lamentations. Make this bigger. With their own hands, compassionate women have cooked their own children. I mean, they're compassionate. They're loving women. They're great, but they became their food when my people were destroyed. People are in strange situations. They believe certain things and they will act in certain ways that is not beneficial to them or to other people or to even to their children. So we have to understand that these things that are happening today is just what Satan wants to happen. It's taken him what? It's been 250 years basically since we've been formed this country. It's taken him this while to get this into the culture, to get it accepted. We have to root it out. Continuing on Jeremiah 29:9. Now, 29:11. I know the plans I have you, the plans to prosper and not to harm you. That's God's plan for us. That's God's plan for us. But in Jeremiah 19:9, I will make them eat flesh of their sons and daughters, and they will eat one another's flesh, because their enemies will press the siege so hard against them. Now, this is a siege. Now, there's a couple of times in the Bible when people have eaten their children. Once, this is when they're under siege, when they surround the city and there's no food coming in or out, and people will kill the children and eat them. The other times is the high places, and we're going to get to the high places. And the third time is sacrificing children to protect themselves and to enshrine them in perhaps the gates of a city or some other, or a temple, to protect. So they would kill children, bury them literally alive. So at this time, so that in reference to the king. So there's really three different ways that these type of things have happened in the Old Testament. So this is what they were doing. So the siege was so hard. Jeremiah 37:31. They have built the high places of Tophath in the valley of Ben Hinnom. Now, this is very important, because I want to talk about what the high places are. Basically, the high places are just a place where a family or a group of people or a village would build a place, a shrine, and build it up, and they would go and worship that shrine there. Now, that worship many times was embedded in sexual practices. We know that when the Jews came out of Israel, and came out of Egypt, and when Moses went up to the mountain, there was a group of people, not all of them, there was a group of people that were so embedded with sexual perversions and orgies that they said, well, let's make a god. They made the god of orgies. They made him make what was it, an ox, whatever, a golden ox or whatever, and they had an orgy, a gigantic orgy, and God came down, and Moses came down and he opened the ground and he buried them all. People just don't wake up one day and say, gee, let's have an orgy, honey. That's not a type of thing that just happens. It has to be embedded in the culture and in the people, so that they want to do it openly in front of all. So this is what we have to understand. We cannot allow these things into the culture, so because they will become so ingrained that they'll be normalized. So what would happen in the high places, and this is a series that goes through the whole Testament, you will see. They'll have a bad king. He did evil in the sight of the Lord. Then they said, and then eventually they'll have a good king. He did good in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord God was blessed. But he did not get rid of the high places. You see, people and sex are closely related. It's really difficult to get people's sexual perversions changed if it's embedded in their community. So it would go on. Then they'd have an evil king, a good king. He was a good king, but he did not get rid of the high places. Now, these high places, not only did they have orgies, but here he says they would burn their sons and daughter in the fire. And the implication here is, and a number of commentaries say that they would burn them to eat them. Okay. It says this didn't even enter into the mind of God, but people were doing that in the high places. And again, eventually there'd be a good king. He was a good king, did right in the sight of the Lord, but he did not get rid of the high places. Because why? This is what's going on in America. Well, there's a good president, but he's having difficulty getting rid of the high places. Why? Because it's so embedded in the culture. But you know what? It has to get rooted out. And eventually, there was a king who did get rid of all the high places. Unfortunately, he did come back later, but it takes a lot of effort and pain. Pam Bondi again said, "Well, if we get rid of all the people in the Epstein file, the whole system will collapse." Well, Pam, let it collapse. What the heck are you doing? They're eating children. They're killing children. They're abducting children. What else can we do to stop this? These are the things that have been happening in the Old Testament. Here we go again. Yeah, it's the same voice. They would. He desecrated Topheth in the valley of Ben Hinnom. No one could use it to sacrifice their sons and daughters to Moloch. So it was to a god. Now, we have heard that even Epstein was sacrificing to gods, to Moloch. I mean, this is real. So we've got to look into that. I want you to be cautious as you're looking at that, because there's a lot of manufactured lies going out there about the Epstein file. So that's why I suggest stay in Twitter. It's probably the most safe place, and verify things before you overreact, because there's a lot of people that don't want this stuff to stop. Finally, I want to get back. I want to end with something positive, because God doesn't want orgies. God doesn't want abducting children. God doesn't want eating children. God doesn't want sacrificing children. Uh, he doesn't want that in our culture. For the plans that God has for us are to prosper and not to have harms, to give us hope and a future. Because if this continues, if they allow this continues, this country does not have a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. It is the time for us as a nation to cry out and pray to God. It's the time to ask for change. It's the time to ask for morality. It's the time to ask for justice. And justice is, if your friend has been doing these things and he's been giving you money, you can't say, okay, I can't, I'm going to let it pass. There's no pass. There's no pass here. So we pray that our elected officials will do what their job is and route this stuff up. I want to thank you for listening to this. This is a difficult thing. There's nothing new under the sun, as the Bible says, but it can and should be stopped. Thank you for joining us